Support Our Sinclair and listen ad-free. Go to patreon.com/Our Sinclair. Our Sinclair is also brought to you by the Div MMC Future from thefuturewas8bit.com. Quit waiting on tapes and fooling around with WAV files and load your games instantly with the Div MMC Future, a jumperless, switchless SD storage solution for all ZX Spectrums, from the 16K all the way to the Plus 3. Get yours today at thefuturewas8bit.com. Hi everybody, welcome to Our Sinclair. I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, the day has finally arrived where we look at the ZX Spectrum port of Donkey Kong.
That's my jam, yo.
Yeah. Now, Donkey Kong is your all-time favorite arcade game, right?
Correctamundo.
Tell me about the first time you ever played Donkey Kong.
Oh, gosh, bud. Well, I believe the very first time that I ever saw Donkey Kong was in the arcade, of course. It wasn't an arcade, though. There's a local chain of department stores in West Virginia. There were, and it was called Murphy's.
Murphy's. Like Hex?
It's like Hex. And it was in Dunbar, West Virginia. You know where Dunbar is?
Yeah, you go there, you get stabbed in the face.
You know where the old toll bridge is?
No.
As you go, you know the bridge goes from Dunbar to South Charleston?
Yeah.
Okay, to the left of that on the Dunbar side, there's like a shopping plaza there, right?
Oh, man.
And there used to be a Murphy's right there.
I don't think I've ever been there.
No one has now.
Yeah.
But Murphy's was a pretty big deal. And they had an area, a little arcade area set up in there, and they had a Donkey Kong. And I believe that's the first time I saw Donkey Kong. It would have been right when it came out. And they ended up having Donkey Kong Jr. there, too. I bet they converted it. That's what I probably did. And I remember looking at this thing, I'm like, my God. I've said this many times in the show, but this happened again. I was like, this is the best graphics could ever get.
Mm-hmm.
They'll never be any more realistic. It was like playing a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
It had a cool, you knew right away what was going on. But I was horrible at it because it's really hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Jr. I played a lot more in the arcade because I was better at it at the time. But Donkey Kong's one of those games that you can just, I've played it. I've played Donkey Kong probably once a month since I was able to, for years and years, at least once. I played a lot. I've played a ton of it the past couple weeks, and I just love it. And so when I heard that we were going to, even though you brutalized Donkey King, when I heard we were playing it on the Spectrum, I think I told you on the phone, or at least sent you a message. What did I say to you? Do you remember what I said?
Mm.
I said, Boat, I will review this, but please don't brutalize Donkey Kong again. I just can't handle another beatdown.
Yeah, you took my remarks on Donkey King as if I was insulting a loved one.
Yes.
Because you have that kind of a feeling, that kind of an affection for Donkey Kong.
Yes, correct. I'm like the protector. Donkey Kong Dragon's Lair, I feel like I'm duty bound to not let people murder.
I understand. Now, how many Donkey Kong cabinets have you owned in your life?
Two, yeah. I've owned it twice. And the one I've got now, we had to recap the monitor on. But yeah, I love it. And trust me, it was one of the games that got sold in the great sell-off when I lost my job at Lexmark and /IBM in the 90s, late 90s. That was horrible. I had to sell off WWE 4-player WWF WrestleFest, which I loved. I had to sell off my Donkey Kong. I had to sell off a Miss Pac-Man. And I had to sell off my Time Killers MAME cabinet that I built with my own two hands, and Road Blasters. It was bad. I hated that.
What is it about Donkey Kong? Why do you like it so much? Because it's a game that has been effectively solved.
Well, what do I like? Not by me, it hasn't. The draw to Donkey Kong for me, well, of course, it's like putting on the old shoe. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I love it because I'm familiar with it.
Sure.
But what makes it great is that really no two games are the same. And the premise of it is just fun. It's got, this is before Nintendo had established itself as the company that made fun, interesting, unique games. But this is really their kickoff. I mean, cutesy characters. That's what they make their bread and butter on. Varied gameplay. You know, the levels are all different. They play different.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of replayability. Listen, when the original Mario Brothers came out, the arcade game, which was not too long after this,
about 2 years later,
great game. I loved it too for totally different reasons. The reason I didn't play Donkey Kong at all. And then Super Mario came out, the Nintendo game on the NES. And I'd never seen a game like that in my life. And again, these are all sort of the same game, but sort of not. They took the same principles from the original Donkey Kong. They've managed to spin that original game into multiple franchises that have made countless of billions of dollars over the years and have kept the concept fresh in a lot of the games. You know, if you look at Donkey Kong Jr., which was the follow-up, the gameplay elements are sort of similar, but it's a total role reversal. It doesn't play or feel anything like the original Donkey Kong, and it's fun in its own right. Now, when you get into Donkey Kong 3, you know,
things started to come off the rails. It was a different development team. Everything was different
like
about it.
The other game,
because by the time Donkey Kong 3, you got to remember Miyamoto is the guy behind Donkey Kong, and by the time Donkey Kong 3 came out, he was already working on Super Mario Brothers.
Well,
He'd already left the building.
Donkey Kong 3 gets a lot of abuse, but if you remove Donkey Kong's name from it, it is a unique, unusual attempt to combine platforming and shooting into something, which again you're twisting genres in a time that was a very unusual thing to do. Yeah. So it had its place, but but I'll go back to it over and over. That's never gotten my fill. That's the way I am.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron. Let's talk a little bit about the ZX Spectrum version of Donkey Kong.
So, you'll recall that the original Kong, the arcade version, again, you mentioned it, Miyamoto's genius stroke here, kicked off his career.
Because up until this point, Nintendo had put out 1 million different arcade games, and they were all terrible, and they were all no good. And you know,
I can't totally agree with that because I have to go back and see what they put out.
Oh, trust me, I've played a lot of their early stuff.
Did you play that? Was it Radar Scope?
Radar Scope is what they used to convert all these.
I didn't hate that.
Well, the thing is that they were just very derivative. They were very, you know, people praise Nintendo these days for being very original. But back in their early days, they were anything but.
You know, I believe the story goes that Miyamoto, this was not the game he was originally supposed to make. Is that right?
Yeah.
I can't recall what the game was supposed to be, but you know, and I believe he made this game out of the remnants of Radar
Well, they put this game in Radar Scope cabinets.
So he was restricted to what he could use graphically and whatnot. So anyway, this game was out in '81. Of course, I think by now everyone is pretty familiar with Donkey Kong, the arcade game. It spawned the sequels. It kicked off Nintendo as a viable company for video games. It spawned commercials, lunch boxes, and all points in between. And still is generating money to this day.
Oh, yeah.
It's still the little mini arcade cabinets. This is the second or third time around for that.
I played Mario Odyssey for the first time the other day. I swear.
And then, of course, Donkey Kong was ported to. I'm not going to go over this whole list, but I mean, literally the most obscure things you could think of, like the TI-99. This was a DOS booter. It's on all the consoles for all the times. Its clones are everywhere. We talked about Donkey King on the Coco, the 2600. Of course, the ColecoVision version, very well known for kicking off the Coleco and being the package.
Well, and the Famicom, the NES in Japan, was programmed to play the most accurate version of Donkey Kong possible. That was its job, in much the same way that the ColecoVision was designed around Donkey Kong here.
And it's funny, I mentioned earlier that I'd played all these different ports of Donkey Kong, and I actually played the Nintendo version quite a bit in the last couple of weeks, and I will say, it is the tippity top.
Yeah.
It's it doesn't have, it's not 100% perfect, but it's very good.
Yeah, it's a shame that the limitations of the cartridge didn't allow all the levels.
Right. That's exactly right. So I was excited. I had not played the Specky version of this, but I thought the Specky had a chance to put together an excellent version of Donkey Kong.
I thought so too.
And so this is one of the few times that I watched a video before I actually played the game, and I watched a fellow play through this, And I thought to myself, let's have a look at this thing. What do I? Because having played this so many times, I can spot the little things. And so I just jotted down some notes, just the stuff I liked right out of the gate. Okay, so and having played so many of these, a lot of these features aren't around in some other versions. So if you've played Donkey Kong enough, you'll realize that certain things are standard. For example, at the beginning of the game, the very first barrel that drops straight down is the oil barrel that lights the fire in the barrel at the bottom of the screen. Well, in the Sinclair version here, it even says oil on it. It comes down like it's supposed to, which is good. The sounds are pretty good. I will say the in-between tune is hideous.
Oh, yeah. It makes you wonder why they even put that in at all.
How could you? I mean, it's so far out of tune. It makes me wonder if they. I mean, those notes exist.
Yeah.
That. So that is I mean,
it's very strange. It's odd. Why? Because surely they knew it sounded so bad.
It's hideous.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and I looked at this game was developed by it was published by Ocean. But it was the guys that put it together were called Sentience Software Limited, and they were comprised of 3 fellows that worked on this, and of course another guy that did the cover art. So you had John Mullins. John Mullins worked on some pretty good games here, Boat. You've got the game's Winter Edition. You remember those? Megamon, Night Shift, Power Drift, WEC Le Mans, Taipei, and Scrabble Deluxe. The other fellow that worked on it was Clive Paul. He worked on the game's Winter and Summer Editions, Double Trouble, Go for the Gold, Guerrilla War, Power Drift, Taipan, and Falcon. And then the third guy that worked on this, and I don't know if this is the music guy, his name was just simply listed as Chic.
Oh.
Chic. And he worked on Road Race. And it said the cover artwork for this was done by Xavier Leslie Carabarja.
Which is interesting because the cover art seems to be a direct rip-off of the side art of the arcade machine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. And just go into the particulars. Yes, this works on the 48K. You've got all the. I didn't have any trouble with the interfaces. I played. By the way, I tried this with joystick and keyboard. We'll get into that later. And was released at an original price. To get this, it was only £8, which
that's the going rate for most.
Of course, it was released
titles.
in '86. So, and we'll get to that in a minute too, because that was sort of something that hindered it. So, anyway, getting back to the things I noted. So, aside from the little tune, horrible things that I liked. That's got the cutscene. Kong climbs the thing. He stomps. He stomps in the middle of it, but still he stomps.
Right.
When he throws barrels, he actually reaches for the barrels, right? Which is
I
good.
noticed that too.
Pauline actually says help on the screens that she appears. After the level's over and you win, Kong actually grabs her and leaves as opposed to just disappearing. It does have all 4 levels. Okay. The levels are in pretty much their appropriate style. One of the things it did that I thought was a very clever thing to do was much like Donkey King didn't do this, but it actually made room for all the girders. But on this one, the last bottom girder on the first screen is just only partially visible after Kong stomps, but they managed to get all the girders on there that way. That's smart. That's a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
I noticed that on the rivets level, normally you jumped over a rivet, it would go away, but sometimes it wouldn't. So, which is sort of like Donkey King. I don't know. I couldn't really get any right.
Well, in Donkey King, the rivet never goes away.
But I mean, that's what I mean. On the second round, when you get past the first 4 stages, the barrel comes down fairly correctly. With
the sideways
barrel. So when I was watching this play, I thought, okay, this looks pretty good. Now, of course, it's got the usual Spectrum shortcomings. For example, your Jumpman is just straight up white. All the gifts that you pick up, all the stuff that Pauline dropped is white. All the characters are solid colors.
Right.
Donkey Kong's red. Donkey Kong looks a lot like Yeti.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't you think you could have plucked him? Yeti looked like he made a special guest appearance. If you listen to ARG's Yeti episode, Pauline's just sort of a solid color. Of course, this is stuff you would expect. The colors aren't arcade accurate. The fireballs also are white. This is just spectrum.
But I mean,
nothing that would affect the gameplay. But I'm just pointing it out. So overall, I thought, man, this looks okay. I think this is going to be pretty good. And I had flipped over and saw that some of the early reviews from our listeners were not very positive. I was like, man, what are these guys must be are nuts. This looks to me, this looks really good. And so I fired up my emulator, fired this thing up, and then I found out what the problem was. And this game, for all of the things that they did right, they did some things horribly wrong. And what's horribly wrong is the movement, particularly the ladder movement of Jumpman. He goes up and down these ladders painfully slowly.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that affects the gameplay of this, it literally ruins the game.
Oh yeah, because the ladders are the game. Yeah, that's what you do as Mario or as Jumpman. You climb ladders.
This game has two major failings in terms of the gameplay. The first is Mario or Jumpman is painfully slow in the ladders, and secondly, the jumping, the hit detection, I guess, is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say it's bad, but if you ever play this in the arcade, you can sort of almost even touch the enemies before you get killed.
Right.
And this, if you're in the same neighborhood, you're done. The enemies also have an AI to where they come at you, they almost flock to you, and not like the arcade or any of the other.
Yeah, we're watching the girder level now, and on the AI on the arcade game is, sometimes the guys feel like they're pursuing you, but sometimes it seems like they're going about their business.
It's sort of like the Pac-Man game.
Yeah. And in this game, they really flock to you.
This, I'm going to say this without trying to be arrogant. I'm a pretty good hand at Donkey Kong, okay? This game was so hard and frustrating that I could not get off the first level for hours. I just sat and played it, and I know what I'm doing. Now, one thing I noticed is the playthroughs I watched, a lot of people would hang out on the ladders a lot longer than I would.
Yeah, that's what I noticed
and
too.
let the barrels just roll by and they wouldn't fall. The barrels don't come down the ladder that often, but they still do occasionally. For a while, I didn't think they did at all, but if you sit and watch, they do come down eventually. So you can't just hang out on the ladders, but I think a lot of it is straight up, you don't have a choice. You have to play in a way that's not normal. You would never wait and let 3 or 4 barrels go past you in those ladders. You would get smushed.
Right.
In this, you have no option. You have to let them go by, and it's not realistic at the arcade. But it's not just that, because I can get past it. It's just not that good. The barrels careen off the sides of the girders on the first level in a bizarre way. In the arcade, my favorite strategy on that top level is to hang out right in the ladder and let the barrels come over and then jump them. On this, that's almost impossible. Something else that's almost impossible is just to jump straight up and clear a barrel.
Right. And that's, to me, you talked about what kills the game. That's what killed the game for me, because that's a big, I'm not nearly as good at Donkey Kong as you are, but part of my strategy is as they come to me, I hit up or I hit jump, and then I can just jump over it and it goes below. In this game, you can't do that, or if you can, I wasn't successful at it.
I did it a couple times, but it's not, you can't rely on the, I've talked on, give me your overall thoughts about this when you fired it up.
Well, I think that it all comes down to, in a game like this, you have to have, it doesn't matter how things act, they need to act in a particular way that is predictable. Okay, so like, for example, if there's a rule that says you can't jump straight up and clear a barrel, well, I can accept that. What I can't accept is like 2 identical movements, one giving me one result and one giving me another result. And that's really what this game suffers from. I could not get past the first stage of this game, but I was not surprised by that, because I can't get off the first stage of Donkey Kong sometimes when I play, and Donkey King, I could not get off the first stage. So I put that down to just my inability to play this game well. I did find myself having more fun with this game than Donkey King, though, because of the speed. I can abide most things in old games, but one thing I can't abide well is an old game that plays slow. And Donkey Kong plays slow, or Donkey King plays slow. This game plays more akin to the arcade game. Although, would you say that this moves faster than the arcade game, or about the same?
On the ladders, this is the slowest one, and I mean, listen, comparing these to the Coco or the 8-bit, but this game has one thing. Listen, the 8-bit we mentioned, since we've talked a lot of Donkey Kong, 8-bit plays too fast. The Coco version.
You're talking about the Atari
8-bit. The Coco version plays too slow. This one actually plays okay, but where they botched it is and this has a more fatal flaw than either of the other two, and that is The jump mechanic is not good, but more importantly is the ladder. The speed on those ladders is it's like you're climbing 10 stories.
So, I didn't come in to Donkey Kong knowing that I was going to love it, because I don't love Donkey Kong. It's just not one of my favorite games to play.
I bet you were loving life when you saw this pull up on the draw.
It was quite funny. I don't think that the game looks bad.
No.
I think that it looks like the Spectrum version of Donkey Kong should look.
Yeah.
And it plays fast. The thing about the Spectrum, given everything about its limited palette and what kind of graphics is displayed, the games run smoothly and they run quickly. And this game, it does that, but just the difficulty made it a non-starter for me.
Well, and the barrels and the speed is almost. It's funny. This is a contrast. And the contrast is your guy moves fast, the barrels move fast, the fireballs move fast. They all move super fast. But you move like super duper slow in the ladders, and that's all it takes to ruin the game. Mm-hmm. Listen, this game's a winner in everywhere but basically one department. I can get past, I got some other nitpicks on here. Like you don't see Pauline on the girder level, which is okay because again they got it right.
Should we talk a little bit about how Pauline appears in this game? She appears as if she's off in the far distance because she's about maybe a quarter of the height of Jumpman, and it appears to be a stick figure.
But I can forgive that stuff.
I don't know. It seems weird that you actually go to the trouble to draw a pretty passable Jumpman, and Donkey Kong looks about as good as he does anywhere.
Well, they have to fit the whole game in. Listen, they did it right.
She's literally a stick figure, though.
She is, but they got the gameplay right. That's all the aesthetics. Yes, it's something you can complain about.
It's just weird.
The hammer placements are right, which that's fine. They did everything right except for the ladders, and the fact that the fireballs and everything is too fast. Mm-hmm. It's all too fast. So what you get is the hardest Donkey Kong I think I've ever played. I mean, don't get me wrong, Donkey King is difficult, but this is real. Everything in Donkey King is slow. This is like Donkey King's going up and down ladders with 8-bit Atari speed. It's deadly. And it ruined the game. Mm-hmm. I hate to admit this because I love Donkey Kong and I say I'm good at it. I had to use save states all the time and had to reload over and over and over just to see all the levels. Embarrassing. I thought the elevator level was the one that was the least abusive because on that one there's very little ladder climbing, so you can actually get up and down it pretty easy. The rivet stage is brutally difficult because the fireballs are so fast.
Yeah.
That stage, the cement factory, I should mention that at the top in the arcade, Donkey Kong goes back and forth on the conveyor belt and moves him. On this one, he doesn't move at all. And also, unlike the Japanese build of Donkey Kong, where you have to actually get up to the top and then go and get up to the top where Pauline's at. This is like the American version, where you just have to get to that top level where Donkey Kong's at. But like I said, in the arcade, he moves back and forth. He doesn't move in this one. And the conveyor belts move kind of weird on that screen. But I mean, and also on the conveyor belt screen, once a couple fireballs get out, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. You have a 0% chance. It's super difficult. The difficulty on this is too high, and the ladder's too slow. So this is a hard F for me. And which is a shame because they got so much of it right, mm-hmm. But there you go. I looked up some scores on this thing. Now, the World of Spectrum, these guys are pretty generous sometimes. They gave this a 7.92 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's high.
Sinclair user gave it 3 stars. Your Sinclair gave it 5 out of 10, and Crash gave it 48%. So those are all basically Fs. Except for the World Spectrum, and this may be one of the old rose-tinted glasses sort of things. Did we get any listener looks at this?
We did. And just a reminder that if you are a Patreon supporter of Our Sinclair, you can join us on our Discord channel and chat with us, and also post reviews on here, just like Chris Folds did. He says, as soon as you see the Ocean logo, you know it's a dice roll for quality. Ain't that the truth? As a Donkey Kong fan, I didn't enjoy this port at all. It doesn't play correctly at all, and I just couldn't get into it. 4 out of 10. Graham Vebke says, I wanted to like this, but as Chris said, it does not play well. In fact, it's too fast, which is something I never thought I would say about the Spectrum. The sound is not great, and the art is average. But at least it isn't jarring. A real disappointment. The ColecoVision and the Coco versions are vastly better. 4 out of 10. And finally, Pixels at Dawn, who I believe suggested this as a member of Clive's Club, He said, "This is definitely a case of I remember this being better." Art is okay, I guess. I always thought the graphic on the level intro screen was a guy stuffed in a barrel, and I stand by that. Sound tries, but is generally poor.
Horrible.
I think the gameplay is generally okay, and jumping barrels works fine, except for what I can only assume is a bug where two barrels together are not spaced to be jumpable like the arcade original, meaning you have to rely on luck to get past that at the first stage. Once that's done, though, it's pretty fun. All the levels are recreated, but oddly, in the wrong order. But it doesn't quite feel like Donkey Kong. Close, but no cigar, 6 out of 10.
I think this is presented in Japan, the order's different. I believe, because in this version, you get the first level, the traditional, the girders, then you get the second level, when this one is the cement factory, then you get the elevators, and then you get the rivets. I believe that's the way it was in the Japanese version of the arcade. The levels are different in the arcade version from Japan than it is from the States. So, yeah, I agree. I think they pretty much nailed it. It makes me sad, and this is one that if someone could go in there and pull some of their crazy Sinclair and Spectrum magic, just double the speed on the ladders and maybe slow the barrels and the fireballs down by about a third. Then you got everything else was fine.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because there has been a Donkey Kong for the Speccy release just within the past month. However, I don't believe that they did any of the things that you mentioned. I think that they just fixed the colors. But maybe we'll have a look at it on a future computer club.
With your incredible success with the Atari hack of Donkey Kong, this is your chance to go for it again.
Yeah.
Because there can't ever be enough Donkey Kong in your life. How does it feel that your all-time most successful solo video was that Donkey Kong video?
Cuts like a knife. It cuts like a knife. Even glaring at me from across the room. My Mario Brothers cab, of course, is not a real Mario Brothers cab. It's a DK Jr. conversion. So
you're a lucky man, Bud.
All right. It is time to announce, Aaron, the first annual Listener Awards for Our Sinclair. This is something we've done with the Amigos for the past 5 years, and we want to start it with Our Sinclair now that we approach our 1-year anniversary. For the last show of the year, we're actually going to do a best of show where we poll the listeners and have them vote on the favorite games that we've covered so far, or covered in 2019. So you can go to vote.oursinclair.com, and there's a survey there where you can choose the best shooter, best action game, all the different categories, we hope to get a lot of responses and have a real nice award ceremony here on December 27th when we film that show.
That's going to be fun because I do want to go back and kind of touch on some of the old. It's amazing. How long has this show been cooking now?
I think we almost 40 weeks.
And it's there's a lot of. I would like to go back and do a little review on some of these, but I mean, I think there's plenty of good games to pick from.
Yeah,
we were very fortunate. Of course, we had the committee took care of it.
Clive's Club really does a great job selecting the games that we play each week. We appreciate them. We do tape this show live every Friday on twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. I want to take a second to thank our Twitch subscribers: Silverstreak72, Tapes from the Crypt, The Slow Norris, 6MMBRX, 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast, Math Dufort, Muggy7, Brutal Barracuda, Bumface Poo Hands, Uber Scuba Diver, Peeplo, Go Sub, Still Adolescing, Brother Bill, Anguish Auteur, The Devil Bunny, Midgard 73, Rushi MX, and Hasifa. Thank you so much for subscribing on Twitch. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, one and all.
And of course, if you'd like to sponsor the show through Patreon, you're welcome to do so. Patreon.com/Our Sinclair. And if you have any feedback for us, of course, feedback@oursinclair.com, especially our new users. Aaron, this is the first show many people are hearing because it's appearing on our Amigos retro gaming feed.
Oh,
the Amigos.
You want to go over that?
Well, there will be a message at the beginning of this podcast that I'll record.
Very good.
To slot in there. But we love to hear from you guys and what you think about the show. So, all that said, I'd like to thank our supporters on Patreon: Andrew Waite, Jeff Owen, David Spencer, Cap and Crispy, Laurent Giroux, Gary Heather, Eric Nelson, Harbonaut, Graham Vebke, Frodo NL, Tapes from the Crypt, Pixels at Dawn, doing a great job modding over in the chat, Chris Folds, Paul Harrington, and Christopher Hassel. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And next week, Aaron, for our last Our Sinclair game of the year,
Our season finale.
It's going to be Back to School.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Back to School.
Now that's the sequel to School Days, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Can't wait.
How about that? I remembered something.
I loved School Days, and I can't wait to play Back to School.
I remember having a cursory look at that, and it looked really interesting. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks as always for listening. We'll see you next week, and until then, rewind tape
and press play.